Once upon a time, in a small vibrant city in Africa, lived a young woman named Becky. She was an ambitious lady in her late 20s, full of dreams and determination to make a name for herself in the corporate world. Fresh out of university, she landed her first job at a prestigious company where her boss, Mr. Chuka, was known for his commanding presence and strict demeanor. At first, Becky admired Mr. Chuka from a distance. He was the kind of man everyone respected, tall, dark, and handsome with an air of authority that made people stand in awe of him. Becky, however, had a secret admiration for him that went beyond professional respect. His voice, deep and confident, always sent a tingle down her spine. She couldn't help but feel drawn to him in ways she didn't fully understand. One fateful evening after the office hours, Mr. Chuka called Becky into his office. The entire building was quiet, and it felt as though the world outside had fallen silent. She stepped into his office nervously, expecting some late-night work, but what transpired next was far from what she had imagined. Mr. Chuka leaned back in his chair, his eyes locking with hers, as he casually complimented her work ethic. The conversation was smooth and professional at first, but soon the air between them shifted. He stood up, walked toward her, and touched her arm lightly. A current ran through her body. His touch was gentle, but his intent was clear. Becky's heart raced. She knew what was coming, and to her surprise she didn't resist. A part of her had longed for this moment, though she would never have admitted it to herself. Mr. Chuka, without uttering a word, drew her closer, and before she knew it, his lips were on hers. The kiss was slow but filled with passion that neither of them had acknowledged before. That night, he made love to her in the office. His hands explored her body, and she reveled in the sensation of his touch. Becky had never felt such intense desire before. Her mind was flooded with the thrill of being with someone she had admired for so long, and as he put himself inside her, the pleasure overwhelmed her. The office space that once felt cold and professional now seemed like their private sanctuary of passion. Days turned into weeks, and their secret affair continued. Becky had never imagined herself being involved with her boss, but there was something irresistible about the danger and excitement of their relationship. The late-night meetings became a regular occurrence, and soon she found herself falling deeper for him. At first she thought it was just physical attraction, an affair driven by lust. But as time passed, Becky realized she was developing feelings for Mr. Chuka. He was more than just her boss. He had become her lover, her confidant. He treated her differently from the others in the office, giving her special attention that didn't go unnoticed by her colleagues. Gossip started to swirl, but Becky didn't care. She was under his spell. Eventually, Mr. Chuka proposed something unexpected. He suggested they take their relationship beyond the office. Becky was taken aback by the idea. Could they really make this work in the real world? Despite her doubts, she agreed to give it a try. Their relationship flourished outside the confines of the office. They traveled together, shared intimate moments, and began to picture a future as more than just boss and employee. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and soon Mr. Chuka decided to take the ultimate step. He proposed to Becky on a warm evening under the stars. With a heartfelt smile she said yes, knowing this was the moment she had dreamed of. They married in a lavish ceremony, attended by family and friends, who marveled at the beautiful union of two successful people. But things began to change once they were married. What had once been an exciting and forbidden affair now became something routine. The passion that had burned so brightly during their secret meetings seemed to flicker and dim in the day-to-day reality of married life. Becky found herself longing for the thrill they once had. As a husband, Mr. Chuka was still the commanding, charismatic man she had fallen for. But in the bedroom something was different. The raw passion that had defined their affair was gone, replaced by something more predictable and less exciting. Becky found herself missing the wild intensity of their office encounters, the excitement of sneaking around. At first she didn't say anything, hoping that it was just a phase, that things would return to the way they once were. But as time went on, she realized that their relationship had shifted. Mr. Chuka too had changed. He became more focused on work, more distant, and less attentive to her needs. One night, Becky lay in bed, thinking about how things had unfolded. She had once been a young woman captivated by a man who seemed larger than life, a man who had introduced her to a world of pleasure she had never known. Now that man was her husband, but the excitement was gone. She wondered if this was what all marriages became, a slow decline from passion to routine. She missed the man who had seduced her in the office, the man who had ignited her desires. Could they ever get that spark back? Or was it gone forever? Becky decided to take matters into her own hands. She wanted to reignite the flame between them, to remind Mr. Chuka of the passion they had once shared. One evening, she dressed in the same clothes she had worn the first night they had been together in his office and greeted him at the door with a mischievous smile. At first, he was surprised by her boldness, but soon the old spark returned. Becky led him to their bedroom, and for the first time in a long while, they rediscovered the fire that had drawn them together in the first place. Their marriage, like any relationship, had its ups and downs, but Becky learned that passion could be rekindled. It just required effort, communication, and a willingness to keep exploring one another. And so they continued, learning and growing as husband and wife, forever tied together by the memory of how it all began.